Well, hello. Here's me again. I sound probably funny. I can hear myself inside my head, but I'm getting better. And the events of the last days in Kazakhstan require me to kind of get my act together earlier than I wanted it to, but it's okay. I mean, I'm at home, I'm comfortable, and I don't have fever or anything, so I'm just sound funny. Well, here's what I need to say today. It is a truism, pretty much, in Russia and in among many people in the former Soviet Union, that once you hear Allahu Akbar anywhere, well, it's obvious that we're dealing with the Islamic terrorists and political Islam, but it also means that inevitably all traces of this will lead to usually Ankara and, of course, London and Washington, D.C. There is a very famous truism among people. You know, its philosophical thing is just tell me who your friends are, and I will tell you who you are. Same goes, tell me who your heroes are, and I will tell you who you are. So it is absolutely not a news anymore that the United States was transporting ISIS leaders and some of their families and some of their units, if you wish, to Afghanistan, since it became clear that ISIS will be defeated. And it is a well-known connection between the United States, Great Britain, and their specialists, between Al-Qaeda and, of course, already stated above, ISIS. Well, now in Kazakhstan we do hear Allahu Akbar, and we see the pretty much same pattern which you would see previously, even in Chechnya in late 90s, and you will see it in Syria, and the handwriting, so to speak, the pattern is recognizable immediately. It's both tactical and operational one, and as you probably remember yesterday, I stated that one of the major reasons why the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979 was not just whatever the United States was doing there, and as Brzezinski loved to take the credit for him defeating quote-unquote Soviet Union in Afghanistan, but the fact was of the massive Islamization, radicalization of the Fergana Valley in what used to be Soviet Uzbekistan, and the danger of the spread of the radical Islam. Not that Islam is not radical, there are many issues with Islam which beyond the scope of our conversation today, but point is that Britain and United States have been involved with the most radical and terrorist organizations in Islam for a long time. And the fact that ISIS have been transported, and it's been noted by Russian, Iranian, other news agencies around the world, it's really not a secret. So now we see there are known people from Afghanistan now on the streets of Kazakhstan, and it has been already established. And of course, the way they've been armed, apart from their armor is being taken over and all kinds of other arsenals being appropriated by so-called rebels. But since yesterday, it is officially anti-terrorist operation in Kazakhstan, and there is very little doubt that there is a strong Islamic sentiment and element in all this situation, and that, my friends, actually is the first sign of the involvement of NATO. But it's not just that. We should not still forget that, as I spoke on many occasions before about that, but here it is again. Clan societies, which have been taken out of their pretty much backward state and without own statehood, like it was in Soviet times when Bolsheviks constituted Middle Asian republics out of what used to be the Khaganates or clan and tribal Islamic societies which constantly fought with each other. So it's not an easy transition to modern society. So, and it never happens really fully for a long, long time. Those societies, like in Kazakhstan, like in Uzbekistan, like it happened in Chechnya, they may take all those outwardly signs of the civilization, from shopping malls to universities, and at some point of time the elites will become more or less sophisticated, and they will dress into modern suits and drink good scotch or whiskey of other kind, but it will never change the fact that their loyalty to the clan, loyalty to their narrow circle of people who are their relatives, will still be the most important one, and it will be the prime. It will rule supreme over any kind of loyalty to the country or to the society of other people, many of whom will be viewed actually as the hostile, despite the fact that they will be of the same race, of the same essentially culture, same language. That's the issue. It was Friedrich Engels, I believe. Yeah, it was Engels. I don't think so it was Marx. It was Engels who wrote that this, and it was written in the 1870s, I believe, of the 1870s, and the quote goes like that: despite their Slavic dirt and basements, Russia nevertheless provides civilization influence on its Middle Asian underbelly. So yeah, Engels was known to be a rabid Russophobe, actually, same as Marx, but he is correct here. I mean, it's Russia was influencing in civilizational way all those people and what today are now independent nations, and it was there where the basic facts of technology, science, education, healthcare, and infrastructure have been brought in by Russians primarily. Well, Kazakhstan went the same way as basically Ukraine went. It started to form its identity, still very kind of vague identity, except for the obvious common racial traits which are recognizable. Kazakh is Kazakh, you can see it's an Asian person, as we know, between the difference between whites and blacks, and, you know, just a regular racial thing. And but in terms of nation, I don't think so. Kazakhstan is really has really fully evolved as such, and we see the results of this mismatch between clannish and very hostile environment inside Kazakhstan now, manifesting itself in the most profound way, including obviously foreign interference, and in this particular case, obviously, as always, Islam. It's the common trait, and in the end there is always the guy with the Quran and AK-47 and turban on the head who you will find in the end standing there staring at you. They are judging by the fact how this Islamic and fundamentalist and political Islam issue coexists with the slogans of this so-called rebellion, which is really a terrorist operation now, now confronted with the counter-terrorist operation in Kazakhstan, and how those slogans suddenly come together with those proverbial now fodder of the Western influence, which of course about releasing of political prisoners, democracy, and all that stuff. It tells you immediately up front, here it is, this is just staring you in the face. And now that obviously ODKB, the treaty of the security treaty between the number of the former Soviet republics is being activated in the operational sense, and we have the pretty much brigade-size force of Russian and Belarusian paratroopers and obviously SSO, FSOs, forces of special operations, being on the ground there, and evidently Kazakhstan armed forces and intelligence services getting their footing back. So we might expect a serious violence inevitably, but that's what counter-terrorist operations are. But eventually it will be obviously suppressed, and many people will be taken in, and then we will get a lot of interesting stories going our way about who and how financed or influenced this or that event, and how and who was operating within the governmental structures of Kazakhstan. And of course we will know everything there is to know, what kind of clans clashed. Obviously Nazarbayev clan, which corrupted Kazakhstan for such a long time, and he was doing this now really becoming a meme in Russia, multi-vector policies, which never bring anything good to anybody who conduct those multi-vector policies, meaning that playing Russia, between Russia and the West. And so here we are. I think the most important thing which already came out of it is the fact that ODKB not only became relevant, it suddenly became very operational and active. And considering what is, who is behind ODKB, and it's obviously Russia, it becomes almost surreal in terms of the comparison between NATO, which is essentially American intervention, and a bunch of the European freeloaders just operating on complete delusions about modern geopolitics, vying for their security, quote unquote, and NATO, which is essentially obsolete and redundant organization. And here you have the ODKB, which suddenly does exactly what it was created for, supporting and defending its members against external influence and external aggression. Well, we have many people from Afghanistan. They're not necessarily Taliban. In fact, is most likely Taliban has nothing to do with this, because Russia and Taliban have been in a fairly constructive way negotiating for a long time now, and Russia have been sending humanitarian aid to Kabul for a while now, from medicine to fuel to what have you. So Taliban has no reason to attack Russia or destabilize Russia's underbelly. So we're looking here at those remnants of the West controlled and sponsored terrorist organizations and Islamic fundamentalists who are ready to do anything, any bidding for the West. And here it is. Many of them were and still are in Afghanistan, and that's where they go. They go through Uzbekistan, they go into Turkmenistan, they go to Kazakhstan, and all those stans, they are all hotbeds of the radical Islamization. There are all kinds of organizations operating there, and we have to keep this in mind. And even today in Russia, if you look at how FSB deals with all those radical Islamic organizations, I mean, many of them have a direct connection to Turkey and other intelligence services from NATO countries, namely MI6, CIA, and other orgs of this nature. So it's it's as traditional for the West to deal with this as for Americans it is an apple pie and, old glory. It's that's the nature of the so-called the security apparatus in the West, which is really not into security. They never, when you look at, it's funny, American intelligence services, they failed the United States spectacularly on so many occasions that it's not even funny to talk about it. I mean, they never defended the country. They always were there to destabilize others. So, and that's the issue for today. But you can be sure now that once the forces of ODKB, primarily Russia and Belarus, we're not talking about Kyrgyzia and Armenia. Kyrgyzia has 200 people there, and as Kyrgyz president announced that he doesn't want to defend against Kazakh people. The only reason for that because there are so many Kyrgyz who migrated, and not only migrated, they moved in the last few days to Kazakhstan to so to speak, to provide aid for this terrorist activities that, you know, Kyrgyzia president doesn't need the troubles when his troops will start shooting those Kyrgyz terrorists and activists there. So, but they are insignificant. It's 200 people from Kyrgyzia, I believe, and 100 soldiers from Armenia. The rest of it is 3,000+ of Russians and 500 Belarusians, and Russia can reinforce them within 24 hours, like with 3 times the size of force, and it can basically deploy within a week 2 to 3 divisions if need be, and after that it will be really fast over. But Kazakhstan has its own armed forces, it has its own intelligence and security services, so ODKB forces there to aid them and support them and help them to settle the whole thing and then sort it out. So ODKB works, obviously, and I expect in the nearest days, obviously there will be a lot of back and forth, but it is clear that from now on things will start to calm down significantly. And then, as I already stated, many people which will be caught, they might end not giving their depositions or being questioned or interrogated in Nur Sultan, former Astana, but they will be in Moscow. And that's when it will become extremely interesting, believe me so. And I'm sure Russia will not hesitate to provide some very juicy details about who and how financed and supported this whole ordeal now, which is being now confronted and under the auspices of the counter-terrorist operation, and that spells I mean, doom for people who decided that they can run the country into the ground. After that, it will be up to Kazakhs to decide what they really want to do. If they want to continue with these multi-vector policies and eventually get destroyed, or if they finally recognize the fact that they're practically totally dependent on Russia economically, and maybe they will make a proper decision and will take it from there. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. And I'll see you later, and I'm kind of improving a little bit, so bit by bit, so you should be seeing me more and more often. Anyhow, do not forget again to support me on Patreon and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.